Previously, we had a look at the basics of the network security group. In this video, we will see how we can provision the network security group, how we can, configure them, how we can add the rules, and how this all works together. So there are a couple of ways you can provision them. One is basically directly, when you're creating a VM, you can provision from there. Or if you would like to have more, then if you want to control the naming convention of the network security group, you can create them individually as well. So let me just show you how you can do it. So if you navigate to your portal.azure.com, you can search for network security group, and there you go. You can select the first one. You can see right now I don't have any network security group, so I can hit create network security group. It'll ask me for the subscription where I want to provision this. Since I only have one, I'll select the Azure test subscription. If you have a number of them, you can select it from the drop down. Regarding the resource group, so if you have an existing one, you can utilize that. I have one network watcher RG, but I'll basically create a new one and name this as NSG RG. I'll name this as database NSG. I'll leave the region as Central US. I'll move on to next to tags, move next to review and create. Okay, and I'll create the resource. So this is basically one of the ways where you can create the network security groups, and we'll just wait for this to be provisioned. Okay, that's done. So if you look at the the network security group, you can see the location, what we had where we had provisioned this, the subscription ID. It's currently not associated with any subnets or network interfaces. So this is the thing. So basically, your network security group, you can either assign it to a single network interface, or you can assign it to a subnet as a whole. So if you basically assign it to a subnet, so any number of VMs which are part of those subnets, the same rule will be applicable to all of them. Or you can assign it to individual network interfaces. It's completely up to you how you want to basically do that. So now if we look at the inbound and the outbound security rules, these are some of the rules which are provisioned by default, and you cannot go ahead and delete them. So this basically basically what happens is that this rule specifies that the communication within the virtual network will always happen. You can see the source and the destination is always allowed. The same goes for any connection which is coming through from the Azure load balancer will always flow through. So these things, you cannot deny them, you cannot delete them, and all the other connections are always in the deny action. So if you are going to basically provision a VM, if there is no rule which allows you to access the RDP port, you will always get an error message that you're not able to connect to that VM. So you always have to add the rules so that you can basically streamline your security. So you have to keep it as strict as possible, allow minimal number of connections, and you can see you have that option. If you go to the inbound security rules, you can add an option here which specifies what is the source. So your source can be anything, or it can be IP addresses. So you can specify a single IP address, or you can specify a CIDR range, like within only those IP addresses within those range would be able to connect to that particular VM. Or you can specify your own IP address. So if you are the only person who is trying to connect to the VM, you can specify that my IP address, and it will take your public IP address automatically. Or in fact, you can have your own service tags as well. So the service tag is basically any number of risks. You can see all the service tag that is mentioned here. So it could be internet, it could be virtual network, a load balancer, action group, and this way you can in fact override these the default rules so that it can be denied. So if you want to have more stricter control over your VMs over your resources. You can deny all the default ones right from here. You can create them, and you can specify the priority as a little bit higher than the priority which is specified here, and those things will be denied. So even within a virtual network you can deny the communication. So right now I'm not going to do anything. We'll check all these information in the later videos. And then you have an option of the application security group, which we'll explore again in the later videos as to how this complements your network security group and how you can use both of them simultaneously to simplify or streamline your security. And then you can have your source port range. So if you want to limit the port from which you should be able to connect, you can limit it. Otherwise you can leave it as an asterisk. That means that any port can connect. The source could be any. Again, the destination, the same thing is there, which is IP addresses. So if you want to limit to which IP address anyone should be able to connect, you can add that rule here to add that IP address or the service tag, or again the application security group. Again, the custom the service could be a custom one, which you can specify which port it is, or you can you can take it from the predefined services which is listed down here. So you can say HTTP, which will automatically take as port 80, or you can go to HTTPS, and so on and so forth. And then comes the action, whether you want to allow them or whether you want to deny them. So basically, allow means if you are specifying an RTP port which is nothing but 3389, so you can allow that. And if you are provisioning your Windows VM, you can, that means that anyone can connect to that Windows VM. Again, it all depends on the source, how you configure the source. So the priority is basically you can see, look at the priority which is specified as 65500, which is the highest priority that is being assigned here. So if you want some rules to be applicable which should not be denied, then you have to specify a priority which is less than these. So basically 100 is the highest, you can say the least priority or the highest priority that will be given, and that will be the first one or the first rule that will be evaluated, and based on whatever you have provisioned or provided in this rule, it will be either pass or fail. If it is if that satisfies the rule or what you're trying to do, let's say an RDP, then it will stop there. If it passes, then you stop there, it is done. If it fails, it will go to the next rule. It will check whether that satisfies whatever action you're trying to perform. So that's how the complete NSG works. So basically these are the rules that you can assign here. And then you have the network interfaces. So right now I don't have any network interfaces associated with this NSG, but once I create a VM, I can associate it, or I can even remove any association which already exists. Similarly, I can have I can assign it to a subnet, and so on and so forth. So that's the overview of your NSGs. Thank you.